Gabriel Dropout is a fantastic anime. Yes, the show about the angel who wears the funny cat suit is indeed a masterpiece, and I am willing to die on that hill. Let's get this out of the way. Gabriel Dropout is not a very deep show. It doesn't have an enthralling narrative, or intricate theming, or super heartbreaking scenes. It is quite literally just a dumb comedy show. But in terms of being a dumb comedy show, Gabriel Dropout is one of the absolute greatest. So basically, in the world of Gabriel Dropout, there exist both demons and angels. The angel's purpose is to be nice and do good things, whereas the demon's purpose is, well, use your imagination. Here are our four main characters: Gabriel, Vignette, Satania, and Raphael. Two of them are angels and two of them are demons. As part of their training to become fully fledged demons/angels, the four main characters have to spend some time in the human world. Thus, the stage is set. Two demons and two angels hanging out at the same high school together, going about their daily lives and participating in all manner of chaotic antics with one another. Gabriel Dropout is a slice-of-life comedy about our four main characters going about their daily lives. This, however, presents a problem. If Gabriel Dropout is just going to be an ordinary slice of life, why are the characters demons and angels in the first place? Isn't the whole conceit of demons and angels kind of pointless if most of the show is dedicated to the characters' ordinary daily lives? Luckily, the writers at Gabdrop Incorporated already realized this, and found a way to completely negate the issue. Gabriel Dropout makes constant use of its premise, whether it be for comedy or even honest-to-God world building. Let's start with the comedy side of things. The first big joke in Gabriel Dropout is that the angels act like demons and the demons act like angels, at least in the main cast. For example, Gabrielle Tenma White, despite being an angel who's supposed to be kind-hearted and help people out, is actually a lazy asshole who just wants to play MMOs all day. Vignette, despite being a demon, can't muster up the courage to do evil things, no matter how hard she tries. Satania is the closest to actually behaving how she's supposed to. She's a demon, and she certainly tries to do evil things. However, she's so incompetent that her evil plans usually fall apart completely, and she's so gullible that the other characters are easily able to manipulate her into doing good things. But this joke is far from the only time Gabriel Dropout's premise is used for the sake of comedy. There's all sorts of one-off jokes that are only able to exist because of this show's out-there premise. Stuff like Gabrielle's halo being pitch black because she's such an awful person, or how Satania refuses to celebrate Christmas because it's God's birthday, or how Vignette has an entire scene where she tries to become more demonic and utterly fails, or rays of godly light censoring Gabrielle's naked body, etc., etc. Now, this on its own already justifies the show's premise in my eyes. Although most of the show is a pretty standard slice-of-life comedy, the constant references to angels and demons and the way the show weaves its premise into its comedy make the premise feel so worth it. But Gabriel Dropout isn't just looking to justify itself. It's looking to go above and beyond. The one thing I never expected going into this show was the level of world building it would have. So, the four main characters each get money from heaven/hell to pay for their rent while staying on Earth. But what I found really interesting was how the characters' stipends get increased or decreased depending on how demonic or angelic they act. There's one scene where Gabrielle and Vignette are shown going through an average day, with Vignette being overly nice and Gabrielle being a lazy asshole. And at the end, both of them realize that their stipends have decreased due to them not acting angelic/demonic enough. It's this type of system that makes the world the characters live in feel all the more real. And there's all sorts of other stuff too, such as the Hell Shopping Network and the Trumpet of the Apocalypse, and that one fish Satania brings to her cooking class. Hell, the characters literally visit heaven and hell during their holiday in episodes 9 and 10. By the end, the world the characters lived in felt goofy, but also like a real place. Obviously, the world could be fleshed out more. But it's way more than I expected for a comedy anime, and I legitimately love this aspect of the show. One of the most common criticisms of Gabriel Dropout is the idea that the show has overly simplistic and one-dimensional characters. To a certain extent, I can see why someone would make this claim. All of the main characters' personalities can be described in a single word. Gabriel is an asshole, Vignette is nice, Satania is idiotic, and Raphael is sadistic. But I just can't get behind the idea that these characters are overly simplistic. Gabriel Dropout's characters certainly aren't the absolute deepest and most complex out there, but that doesn't mean they lack depth entirely. Let's go through each character and see how one-dimensional they really are.
Number 9. Old lady in nursing home.
Gabrielle is an asshole, and yes, that is an accurate description of her entire personality. But that one word doesn't explain the multitude of ways in which Gabrielle is an asshole. Gabrielle is lazy and simply wishes to play MMO games all day. She's rude, a pathological liar, manipulative, and takes advantage of the people around her. Yet despite all this, deep down, Gabrielle is still willing to make sacrifices for her friends, albeit small ones. That's a whole lot more than just the word asshole can account for. Let's keep going.
Apple! What?
Vignette is nice, but there's a whole lot of depth to that niceness. Vignette is the foil to Gabrielle, being responsible, hardworking, and generally upstanding. However, Vignette is self-conscious about how nice she is, because she's all too aware of the fact that she doesn't behave like a demon should. Despite this, no matter how hard Vignette tries, she can only muster up the courage to do the most trivial of evil actions. Vignette is also the straight man of Gabriel Dropout's cast, who acts the most normal out of the four and sees the people around her as goofy idiots. She can also be overly bossy and strict.
Girls, make sure your vibrator and your taser are different colors.
Satania is idiotic. However, she's idiotic because she's incredibly gullible. This gullibility of hers is reinforced constantly throughout the show, with her falling for obvious lies and being incredibly easy to manipulate. Despite constantly being fooled by the people around her, Satania regards herself as superior to everyone else and is incredibly prideful. Satania is also rash because she lacks the forethought to consider the consequences of her actions. She also lacks any sense of self-awareness, and she can oftentimes come off as goofy and overly derisive. Because of her rather abrasive personality, Satania doesn't have many friends. It is strongly hinted at throughout the show that Gabrielle, Vignette, and Raphael are her only friends, and Satania definitely appreciates her friends greatly, although due to her pride, she'll never admit that. The point I'm trying to get at here is that while the characters in Gabriel Dropout are conceptually very simplistic, the second you put a microscope to them, their true complexity becomes clear as day. The only character in the main cast who I can kind of agree is a bit too simplistic is Raphael. Raphael is a sadist, which is a rather specific personality that naturally leads to her character behaving in a very particular way. But even then, the show manages to load that personality with tons of odd eccentricities. Raphael's general demeanor is incredibly innocent and kind, with her real personality always lying just below the surface. She tends to tease/torment Satania the most often, seeing as Satania is the most gullible and easily manipulated of the main cast. Raphael is also afraid of frogs, which is a part of her personality that's only brought up in a single scene, but for some reason has stuck with me. Something you've probably realized by now is that the characters in Gabriel Dropout's main cast have far more negative traits than positive ones. They're idiotic and lack self-awareness, they're generally rude, they're outright sadistic and manipulative. The only character in Gabriel Dropout who's likable in any traditional sense is Vignette. And even then, it's not like she's completely untainted. This is one aspect of the show that I feel is really up to personal taste as to whether or not you can stomach it. You'll either be disgusted by the characters' rotten personalities, or you'll end up endeared to these decadents one way or another. I personally fall on the latter side of this. I love all of Gabriel Dropout's characters. If I had to attach a reason to my love, it'd be that the characters are simply fun. It's fun seeing Gabrielle be so soul-crushingly blunt to everyone she encounters. It's fun seeing Vignette despair over how lazy Gabrielle is on a consistent basis. It's fun seeing Satania's complete lack of self-awareness, and all the ridiculous scenarios that crop up because of it. It's fun seeing Raphael's blatant dual personality, and how Satania falls for her tricks hook, line, and sinker every time. And it's just as fun seeing Raphael get her comeuppance for her manipulation after Satania learns about her fear of frogs. I can see how some wouldn't consider the things I just described as fun. These people certainly wouldn't be enjoyable to hang out with in real life. But I love it, in all its twisted glory. Another common criticism of Gabriel Dropout is the idea that the show only has one joke. Said joke being that the demons act like angels and the angels act like demons. This statement is wrong. It just is. I don't want to sound harsh while defending this show, but really, that is an outright lie. However, I can see to a certain extent why someone would make this point. The joke that the angels act like demons and the demons act like angels is intrinsically tied to the characters' personalities. Gabriel Dropout also just so happens to be a character-driven comedy. If you really just can't stop thinking about this one joke, then it will inevitably begin to feel like the show is reminding you at every conceivable turn that the angels act like demons and the demons act like angels, and the angels act like demons and the demons act like angels, and the angels, the demons. You get the point. But the second you take a step back and actually pay attention to what is happening on screen beyond this basic joke, you'll find the true comedic hook of Gabriel Dropout. The character interactions, and the funny moments that occur because of them. Gabriel Dropout's cast has a lot of natural chemistry with one another, mostly rooted in how much of a dick they are to each other 90% of the time. The characters' eccentricities constantly clash with each other and lead to new, interesting, and most importantly, funny scenarios. One of my favorite examples of this is in episode 2, when Satania, Vignette, and Gabrielle have cooking class together. During class, when Vignette asks Satania to bring out the fish she was supposed to have bought yesterday, she instead hands her a giant fish from hell. Alive! Satania later ends up having to enter mortal combat with the hellfish. When Vignette asks Gabrielle whether she bought the tofu and seaweed she was supposed to, Gabrielle instead brings out potatoes, carrots, and onions. When Vignette asks why she didn't buy what she was supposed to, Gabrielle recalls how she decided on a whim that she wanted curry, and so she bought the ingredients for that instead. Throughout this entire scene, things constantly go wrong, with Vignette growing increasingly exasperated by the second and trying desperately to cope with the situation her two incompetent comrades put them in. By the end, the three of them have cooked up what can only be considered an absolute monstrosity that only Satania is willing to eat. This entire scene is just so enjoyable and kinetic and, well, legitimately funny. And all of this is because of how the characters' personalities naturally lead them to do funny things and interact with each other in funny ways. I think I've made it clear throughout this video that I am indeed a fan of Gabriel Dropout, but I have been hiding a little something in regards to my affection for this show. Gabriel Dropout is one of my favorite shows ever. For the longest time, I easily considered it to be in my top 10. That was until Barakamon burst into the room, became my favorite show of all time, and pushed Gabdrop down to 11th place. Gabriel Dropout is just so addicting and fun, with so many laughs to be had throughout its run. I cannot recommend it enough to anyone that has been even slightly convinced by what I've said. So, to put a bow on this entire video,